My name is Harry Yeff. I'm also known as Reeps One. My specialism is the cross-section between voice, technology, and performance. I've been very lucky over the last 2 years to travel around the world and understand how the human voice is evolving. The voice is a very strange thing because it's as old as we are, and when you realize that something that profound can still change and grow, what does that say about innovation? I think it's a real question, why do artists matter in innovation? We are storytellers. And I think storytelling and narrative is actually the single greatest challenge that we face in innovation. If you think about any process, regardless of how high functioning, how efficient, empathy and understanding is what leads to the engagement of these new tools. I'm specifically interested in augmented relationships. We live in a sea of augmentation, and often we don't even see it. We are swimming in constant new connections, and I think there are many opportunities to make people wake up to not just what is actually in front of us, but the opportunities we have as individuals to take ownership over technology. And I think that is an artistic challenge. The idea of interruptive innovation is consistent in all of my work. So whether it's installation, performance, augmented tool building, it's all there to make people reflect on the fact that technology is introspective. These tools are there to empower us as human beings. They're there to reflect and amplify the skill sets and the practices that we want to develop and improve. It's not a futurist sci-fi narrative that we have no ownership over. So augmented relationship is a term that is said a lot, but what does that actually mean? And I think the best analogy is my first augmented relationship, which started with chess. So I was a tournament chess player growing up, and I very quickly realized it didn't matter how much I studied, how much time I spent looking at books, my opponents were my greatest collaborators. There's something massive in that, the idea that an opponent can actually push us further. It's our relationship with the things that challenge us, push us into discomfort, that lead to progress and progression. So it's a real idea, is how do we cultivate that? How do we take ownership over the experiences that we might fear? There's another saying in chess, which is with every success, you dip yourself in brass. And what that means is your strengths and your comforts can become your prison. You can become comfortable that plasticity is no longer an option. So this became a theme in my work. This is the Polyphonic Playground. So the Polyphonic Playground has 56 triggers with conductive ink. It's a collaboration with Studio PSK and London's Fashion Space Gallery. I was really interested in this idea of how do we interrupt the comfortable? And experts can be extremely comfortable. If you take music professionals, they stand in a certain way, they sit, they play, and there is this format that develops over time. So again, how could I generate wholesome fear? How could I generate a functional fear that leads to a new perspective within their expertise? So I selected some of my favorite musicians who came along. They would plug their laptop into the structure and 56 of their sounds would be spread. So instead of standing in a certain way, sitting in a certain way, they had to reach and jump and play. Introduce 500 people as an audience and give them 20 minutes to work out what they're going to do. What you have is a terrified musician. And despite the stress, despite the angst, every single time the artist left with an excitement, a childlike play. The frictionless experience and the new interactions with a new type of relationship with their skill set awakened excitement. It awakened good and efficient perspective. So what's new? What's a very clear example of how augmented relationships lead to new things? And it would make total sense to apply this to my specific practice. Last year, I made a documentary called We Speak Music in collaboration with Nokia Bell Labs. And I was very lucky to work with Sophie Scott. She's an incredible neurologist and science communicator from UCL. She scanned my brain about 7 times for different voice studies. And she has some great views on how the voice is evolving and changing because of some new fascinating ideas. UCL Neurology Department to meet Professor Sophie Scott. Sophie Scott is a person that I met a number of years ago after the second UK Beatbox Championships. I had just won for the second time, which was an amazing moment for me. And I was soon met with these 2 individuals. And the first thing she said to me was, "I want your brain." And that was the beginning of a journey collaborating with UCL, investigating my brain and how it works whilst I perform. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing? I understand you've got some new stuff to show me. I'm very excited.
Yes, yeah. I've actually a few different techniques as well from stuff you've seen before. I'm curious to actually experiment a little bit.
I'm a cognitive neuroscientist, and I'm particularly interested in how our brains deal with communication, and particularly with our voices. Well, I didn't realise I was interested in the voice. I thought I was looking at speech, and for many years I worked on speech, and then just started to realise that it was just one thing that we do with our voices, and our voices are more than speech, and our voices are musical instruments, and our voices convey emotion and identity and all this kind of social information as well as speaking. I used to say that human voice is the most complex sound in nature, and then Harry made me realise that we are doing the bare minimum with our voices when we talk to each other, and they're capable of so much more. So we've done a few different investigations of Harry's voice. One of them is looking at actually how he uses his breathing.
So I'm going to show a technique now. This is called the inward drag. I currently have the fastest recorded use of the human diaphragm. I'm not going to make this a musical performance, that comes later, but it has context in the point I'm trying to make. So this is the inward drag.
So, it's a very real question why a boy from East London is doing something with his diaphragm that has never happened before. If you take the augmentation between my interest in the voice and the appreciation of the mechanical aesthetic of electronic music, what you had is a marriage, a new relationship that leads to the breaking of a glass ceiling. So the important idea here is that we no longer need to rely on coincidence. We can actually use augmented intelligence, use technology to create the new types of relationships that can enhance our hyperspecialisms. We can pick the things we want to improve in, and as individuals, we can have an ownership over new technology. But why are these ideas not necessarily open or discussed by the public? This is a future collaborator of mine, DNA Block. They make these incredible avatars, which are real-time controlled. They are creating blockchain identities so that digital identities can be protected. These are real technologies. These are real problems. These are new problems that need new solutions. But we need people to wake up and engage with these new ideas. And what is the single greatest problem we face? Narratives of fear. Narratives of fear is stopping progress. And I believe it is the realm of the artist, the realm of empathy, the realm of storytelling, which is the empathy end of the process that can break habitual thinking and turn narratives of fear to narratives of ownership. So, there are currencies of change. We can use awe, experience, and wonder to change people's minds. It would be wonderful if the most beautiful tools of reason made the world go round, but we all know that that doesn't work. We need new ways of opening people's minds. I was given the challenge of collaborating with DadaBots, Lonely Leap, and Nokia Bell Labs to engage with machine learning and create beauty and performance to bring this technology to the masses in a new way. I was very lucky to work with DataBots, where we use sample RNN to create a second version of my voice. Not another, not me, some process in between that I could engage with. Much like a chess AI, that I had an opponent that I could design, I could use this technology to push me further. So this voice you're about to hear is not me.
Zoals decided this meeting, one of the nice in form. This is and so this is them so that this
Strange. So I was able to create this back and forth relationship, which I think is a new genre of artistic exploration, the fact that you can create a pet self. Anyone can create a data set that can become a mirror, an introspective tool on their practice. So here's a small piece of the final performance, which I creative directed. So this is Second Self AI. So, So I don't think it's a question of artificial intelligence, it's augmented intelligence. We need to tune the words that we use and the phrases to create inclusion. I think augmented intelligence is an opponent, a mentor, and a collaborator. So in the spirit of that, I'd like to introduce C sound. No, 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 no way. No, 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 no way. Yeah, yeah. C-Sound is a digital sculpting tool in collaboration with The Mill. And an incredible creative director, Rama Allen, we collaborated with the London and New York teams. And this allowed me to transpose my skill set in a brand new way to create a new augmented relationship. And I would like to introduce a performance just for today called Supernova.
dum dum, dum dum, dum na na ni na na no way. Dum na na, dum na na, dum na na, dum 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 dum, dum na na, dum na na, dum dum da da. So in all my experiences as a creative, the most important moment was when we opened this up to the public, and there was a small girl, extremely shy in her habits. When she got to try this tool, from being a shy, small koala bear-like creature, she made a sound, dap, dip, and she saw it visualized, and she started to scream and shout and laugh. And that was such a perfect analogy for augmented relationships. We can use them to open us up and make new connections. All of these pieces were made during that performance. In one 5-minute piece, I now have a gallery of sculptures. So a massive thank you to Wired and a massive thank you to the Mill. Thank you very much.